this discussion so far. This is as good as it gets. Don't do anything crazy, you might screw it up. It's not as good as it gets. That's the only message everyone knows the fourth most unequal country in the world statistic. Do you know this one? Did you know that apart from the USA, of all developed countries in the world, Scotland has the lowest wages? We are the lowest wage economy of any advanced economy in the world. We have more disabled people in poverty than Spain or Greece or Poland. We are not as good as it gets. There is a reason for this, and that's because we've had one dominant way of doing politics in this country for the last 40 years, certainly for the last 30 years. It's a me-first politics. It's an ideology of whoever is the biggest, whoever is the strongest, allow them to push everyone else out of the way, let them grasp to themselves whatever they want, and the best will come for all of us. You know this because you've heard it said. It sounds like this: cherish the wealth creators. There are some among us who are better than the rest. We know they're better than the rest because they've got money. Money is the sign that someone is better than you. Because these people have money, get out of their way. Let them run things for their own accord. That's the best for your country. That is the dominant political orthodoxy of Britain. It doesn't matter whether you call it meritocracy in schools, whoever gets the best exam results, let them take everything. Or whether you call it the planning process, whoever can put in the biggest bid for the biggest out-of-town retailers can close everybody else down. That's the philosophy. And there are alternatives. Let me give you a comparison. In 2009, in the heart of the financial crash, or as they call it in Norway, 2009, the Prime Minister of Norway said the following, in talking about how they want to build their country for the future. He said, to build more, we must share more. Now, compare and contrast those two things and think for a second. Imagine you're running a nursery school. Imagine you want to get the weans to build something out of Lego. How would you go about it? Would you allow the biggest kid to push the other weans out of the road and hoard the Lego, on the assumption that whichever kid's strongest and get the most Lego is bound to be the best for the class? I suspect probably not. I suspect you'd find that hoarding the Lego becomes, you know that, I'm sure that hoarding the Lego becomes the aim and the goal. If you want to build things, spread the Lego across the class. Some kids may hoard, some kids may try to acquire, but on average, across the piece, you will get more built. Now, that, in a very sort of a nutshell sort of a way, is what we need to do. We need to move the political and economic philosophies of Scotland away from me first and move it towards all of us first. A concept which says collectively we can organise politics in such a way that it creates a society that is good for all of us. Can it be done? Yeah. We just look north, even look east, anywhere but west. If you look to America, then you conclude that this might be as good as it gets. But look anywhere else, and it really isn't. When you look at the Nordic countries, they have a strong economy. It's more competitive than ours, much more innovative than ours, massively higher wage economy than ours. They've got incredibly strong social services, extremely high social cohesion, they have good environmental performance, extremely good local democracy. You can take any indicator you want, health, well-being, the works. BP isn't a cocked hat, because they use a different economic model. Now let me give you a sense of what this means in reality. Let's say that a decent salary, what, 25,000 to 35,000 pounds, something in that sort of area. You're not rich, but you're paying your taxes, you can afford to pay your bills, you can feed your family, you can shop, you can participate in the economy, you're not in a perpetual state of worry. In Scotland, of everybody in work, only 1 in 5 people earns between 25,000 and 35,000 pounds. 3 out of 5 working Scots live on less than 25,000 pounds a year. Half of them live on under 21,000 pounds a year. We wonder why our public finances are screwed. That's the reason there. If we had done nothing more than shifted a group of those people, taking the profile of Scotland's economy and made it more like a Nordic country, the same number of people in work, the same sort of wages, the same sort of spread, doing that without touching tax rates at all would generate an extra £4 billion a year in tax. The best way to take more tax is to give people higher wages. The higher the proportion of our GDP that goes to wages, the wealthier we become income, the more tax we pay, the better society we've got. Tony Blair, things can only get better. I've forgotten about that. Did they? We got more unequal. For a brief period, child poverty got better, and then it got way worse again, because the bluff that they ran for a little while there, it doesn't really matter if you know economy, the City of London fixes. All of that, it got worse, it didn't get better. We haven't sorted these things out in our society, and it's a very straightforward reason. Maybe it doesn't sound, but it is. We base our economy on two things. One of the things we base our economy on is, and I'm going to be quite specific here, farming the population. We are all used primarily as a means of making profit for corporations. Now, does that sound excessively crazy? If you think about what dominates our economy, we're dominated by low pay, low productivity, low investment, low margin, high volume work. Shall I explain that again? What we have are a lot of businesses which don't actually make much profit on what they do because they're not productive. But they don't have to make a lot of profit on what they do because they pay piss poor wages and they do loads of it. We call it mainly retail. So what happens is, some poor lassie in a sweatshop in China takes thread and makes cloth. And takes cloth and makes a push-up bra. Then some other guy drives it to the airport and flies it over here. That is where the value, the real productive value, was created. Then some guy in minimum wage drives it to the shop and a whole bunch of people in minimum wage stack the shelves. Where is the profit realised? From us. It comes out of our pocket. Has it ever occurred to you that in the whole retail sector in Britain, every retail outlet in Scotland, almost the source of income is you? It takes the money out of your pockets and puts it into corporations. And what do we get in return? Some jobs. Be grateful for the low-paid jobs, they say. Really? If you're taking more out of our pockets than you're putting back in, how does that help? Now, of course we need retail, but it's not the only way to run our economy. We need to be productive again. The other thing that kills us from productivity, and this is just a little bit technical, but it's to do with the way we run our money system. We've run our money system in Britain so that it's incredibly cheap to borrow money. Now, you think that's where you keep your interest rates down. It's no such thing. What we do is we make it so in this country, if you can raise a bit of money and borrow it, you almost have to do nothing, almost nothing, to increase the value of that money. Because everyone else in the world has higher borrowing rates. So all you've got to do is make a tiny 0.5% increase, a 0.2% increase. Just do it 10 times. The one thing, under no circumstances, you should do in this country, if you've got any money, is invest it in productive industry. You'd be crazy. Why go and build a factory where it'll take you 5 years to make money, when you can probably gamble it 6 or 7 times in the space of, I don't know, a couple of weeks and make much the same money? Maybe you'll lose, maybe you get some more. Eventually you have a massive loss and the public bails you out. This is the economy that we've got in this country, and we wonder why we're in a mess. So what we have to do is take a completely new approach to these things. We've got to start saying, industry in Scotland, by Scotland, for Scotland is not a dirty word. All these multinationals will come in and help us out. They won't. You cannot fix your economy through tacking stuff on and from kidding on it's going to be okay. One of the things, I've been doing this a lot, can I tell you, it's way more nervous doing it here. I can't believe I'm back home. I've been doing this all over Scotland, the whole audience, as you can see. One of the things which I've been saying as we're going around and doing this a lot is we've got to get back to the idea that there's nothing wrong, and this is going to sound funny to say in the world, there's nothing wrong with accepting that hard work is how good things are built. Scotland's never been shy of a bit of hard work. We've got to this point where hard work is not how the country works. I was watching an old episode of Reid and the Dead, DCI boy, he's very Reid. So he's interviewing a guy, and he suspects the guy's maybe a criminal because he's got 8 million quid, and immigrants just come in. And he sits him down and says, "You arrived here 8 years ago with nothing, and you're driving 2 BMWs. How? What's this about?" And the guy that he's interviewing says, "Oh, I worked hard." DCI boy says to him, "Now I know you're lying, because nobody in Britain got rich by working hard." And that's true. Britain is not a country where you get wealthy from working hard. You work hard in this country for poverty wages. That's what we've created, a poverty economy, the lowest paid economy in the developed world apart from the USA. Now, if we start to do things properly, and again, a little bit technical things here, but we need a sort of finance system. We need a national industrial bank to invest in industry in this country. We need a revolution in the governance of how we do industry in this country. In the Nordic countries, in the German countries, it is absolutely normal, absolutely routine that the governance of a company has employee directors. Members of the workforce become directors on the board of that company. It is normal. Big, important, international German countries do that routinely. Some of them, and this really surprised me when I discovered it, some of them have community directors. Because these enterprises see themselves as rooted in their local communities, their economies, they are part of a local economy. Because of that, they give the community the right to put directors on the board. Does it make them worse companies? Far from it. All their indicators are much better. Because when you have that sort of governance in a company, you take less out of profit and buy fewer yachts, and you put more back into the company and invest more in making a better company. And you take different attitudes to your work. So, if you look at a map of innovation, Britain, Norway. Britain, with blue being very low levels of innovation and red being very high levels of innovation. Britain is a blue country with a red dot over London. Norway is a red country with a blue gap. And I asked, what's the blue gap? It says, it's memories. Goats are not all that productive. So, with this thing, there's innovation everywhere. And why? And it works like this. Because they've got an economy, it's about reinvesting and building collectively and mutually for the future. And because they've got employee directors, when two guys are in a factory in Norway, and they look and they say, see this conveyor belt? See if we turned it in the other direction. We could get twice as many people doing this. We could double our productivity. So what do? They take it to the employee directors, who take it to the board, and the board says, that's a good idea, let's do that. What happens in Britain? Two guys at a minimum wage in the corner of a factory look and they say, see if we turn this conveyor belt in the other way, we could get two more folk in and double their productivity. And that's the problem. They're not vested in their company. They're not vested in their economy. They are not vested in building collectively and mutually together to make a better enterprise and a better country. This is what happens in Norway, and you can see it. In Norway, in the 1970s, the logging industry was an industry of big men with axes chopping down trees. It was the same in Britain. Now, the Nordic and all of the Scandinavian timber industries are among the most advanced materials manufacturing industries in all of the world. They can make wooden beams that are almost as strong as steel. Here, we're still cutting down trees with axes. Nobody invests, nobody cares, nobody builds. We can transform this. We can transform this comparatively easily. It will take work and it will take time. But once you've built that economy, everything else is okay afterwards. You can deal with the other problems. You don't have to deal with the problems of poverty. Just remember this. Countries not far from us have totally abolished poverty. There is no functional poverty in the Nordic countries. Anyone that told you the poorer was with us ain't telling you the truth. We can tackle that problem. They've got the most incredible public services. In Sweden, the big panic is that you might not get into the state nursing home. The quality is so high. They have no fear in their lives. If things go wrong, they know they will be supported. It will be okay. They are happier. Their well-being is much stronger. All their indicators of how they feel about their country, their community, themselves, they're much better. They're much stronger. Social cohesion comes from an equal society. An equal society delivers so much. It delivers so much for everybody in that society, from the bottom to the top. And I've heard people saying, well, yeah, but the Nordic countries are elected a right-wing government sometimes. Yeah, sure, but this is the difference. This is the split that we've got to get in our head. Even a right-wing government in a Nordic country has no more intention of going back to a low-pay, low-productive economy than do any of the left-wing governments. They have created the good society. They are committed. They're incredibly popular among their population, and it has delivered amazing incomes. Now, there's so much more I could be talking about. We've been doing absolutely masses of work on all of this stuff. Could be going into stuff about the local democracy, which is another important factor. If you want to keep a good society, keep your politicians close, we can keep an eye on them. No offence, but it is a democracy works. Democracy works when people have the capacity to influence the politics more than just once every 5 years with one vote. Local democracy is a key part of these, and highly participatory democracies are a key part of that. So is decentralisation. Local authority
It takes me 40 minutes to get to my local authority. In this town, if every single one of us voted to stick a plaque in a wall, the best that we could do is send land councillor to Hamilton to beg on our behalf. You know what happens? That isn't good enough. That is no way to run a country. We could talk about natural resources. We need to take them back into collective ownership. We put a paper out at the weekend. It's quite complex, but the headlines are fairly straightforward. If we owned and ran our electricity system, we would cut our bills by 20% and all the profit would come to us, because it wouldn't be private profits and it wouldn't be private finance. I could talk about a lot of other stuff, but I'm going to stop. You'll be glad to hear. The main thing here is it doesn't have to be like this. I hope there's a lot of questions coming tonight, and I suspect quite a few questions will be about how do we do this. And there's one other message that I think that we need to start telling Scotland. We are a wealthy country. The question isn't can we do this? The question is how do we do this? And I'm going to tell you something that isn't said very often. I've worked in politics most of my life one way or another. I've worked at very senior levels with the Scottish Government, and I've seen this over and over. There is only one way to build a better society, and it's not the myth of strategy, the belief that I can answer all your questions right here and now, that tell you everything you ever need to know from now to the day you die. That's a lie, it's a myth. There's only one way you build a better society. You get up in the morning, you do the best you can with everyone working together, you go to bed at night and you start again. If we can get these messages across, that the will to do it, the collective participation of us all in trying to achieve it, and the knowledge that we know how to fix it, and we do know how to fix it. We know where it's worked and we know how we did it. If you can just believe these things and persuade these things to other people, we're calling this common weal. Wealth shared in common, for the common well-being. It's a way to give a name to this idea that we've been screaming out for in Scotland. We haven't had it. If we can persuade people of these basic things, it is possible. We know how to get there, and all we have to do is say, yes, we want to get there, and yes, we're willing to work hard and show some effort and put it together, then we can achieve it. These three things are all that we need to be able to think about and talk about. It's about the confidence and the certainty that we can do this. It's about the love of the hard work necessary to do it, and it's about saying this is not as good as it